The Tesla Model 3 is literally an iPad on wheels. It has not one single dial, instrument, indicator or switch on the dashboard directly in front of the driver, and relegates virtually all of its functions to a touchscreen mounted centrally between the driver and passenger. The obvious problem with this, ignoring the laughable evangelist argument that it will be driving itself anyway, is that taking your eyes off the road to fiddle around with a touchscreen is incredibly dangerous. There's a reason we're prohibited from touching our phones while driving. If you saw my video on car sickness in EVs, link up here, one of the factors which causes increased nausea in EVs is the presence of such screens, which take the driver's and passengers' eyes off the horizon outside and thus causes increased feelings of motion sickness. And now one of the safety regulators has stepped in and issued guidelines to force automakers to reverse the trend of ever more dominant touchscreens in cars, which is a welcome dose of plain common sense in an increasingly mad automotive world. Welcome back to MGUY, British engineer and lawyer turned Sydney YouTuber. Please be sure to like, share and subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a comment down below, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter X. As the UK Times newspaper reports, car industry told to dial back use of touchscreens. Drivers are often forced to look away from the road to access basic driving functions. Car makers that are increasingly forcing motorists to use dashboard touchscreens for basic driving functions, such as checking speed and adjusting mirrors, will be penalised under rules designed to stop motorists from becoming dangerously distracted. Mercedes, Tesla and Volkswagen are among the manufacturers scrapping many conventional hands-on controls. Instead, drivers have to interact with a touchscreen typically sited to the left of the steering wheel, which means they must look away from the road. Under the rules to be introduced in January 2026, any car seeking maximum points for the highest safety rating of 5 stars must use buttons, stalks or dials for 5 critical tasks: indicating directions, triggering hazard lights, sounding the horn, operating windscreen wipers, and activating the eCall SOS function, which automatically calls the emergency services in the event of a serious collision. The intervention by Euro NCAP, the automotive industry safety body, is a warning shot to car makers that are rushing to install ever more prominent touchscreens on their vehicles' dashboards. The Mercedes EQS, for example, boasts a 56-inch hyperscreen. Screens were initially used for sat-navs and infotainment, such as music and radio playback, but the trend has been to keep adding driving functions traditionally accessed through physical controls. It is tempting for car makers to eliminate hands-on controls where possible, because it not only results in a sleek and minimalist look for the cabin, but saves on production costs, reduces weight, and enables the manufacturer to easily update the software. But safety campaigners are dismayed at the trend, which they fear will undermine compliance with the ban on using mobile phones at the wheel. The offence carries a punishment of 6 penalty points and a £200 fine, alongside the loss of a licence for anyone who only passed their driving test in the previous 2 years. Matthew Avery, Director of Strategic Development at Euro NCAP, the car safety body, said, "The overuse of touchscreens is an industry-wide problem, with almost every vehicle maker moving key controls onto central touchscreens, obliging drivers to take their eyes off the road and raising the risk of distraction crashes." New Euro NCAP tests due in 2026 will encourage manufacturers to use separate physical controls for basic functions in an intuitive manner, limiting eyes off road time and therefore promoting safer driving. Well, about time is all I can say. Some of the menu systems on modern cars rival those of complex digital cameras, requiring the driver to dig down multiple levels in order to change a setting, which might be fine when the vehicle is stationary, but is an absolute recipe for disaster when it's in motion. They should also require that basic instruments such as speedometer and warning lights should be in the driver's eye line, or at least on a heads-up display projected onto the windscreen, so that Tesla's nonsensical design will be relegated to the dustbin of history.